And this is very tantric. Hands, heart, genitals. These are, we're entering the domain of symbology, domain of alchemy, domain of the highest gesture of the expression of the divine creative impulses here. Because the body in Tantra is viewed as divine. And the whole tantric practices are aimed at divinization of the body. Not gaining the divinization, bringing divinization back by deconstructing culturally imposed concepts, which robbed the body of its original status. Even in India, it is considered to be culturally imposed, robbed. So tantric practices aim at nothing less through various different methodologies and practices.
So yesterday you spoke about how the Tanmatras and Mahabhutas are really important to understanding the subtle experiences in our meditation and sadhana. You used the example of why we say being touched by grace and not a smell of grace. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Like, how can we use those to understand the subtle experiences?
So, in other words, why touch, right? Sparsha is being singled out there.
Yeah, that's just...
Being singled out by me during the discourse, right? Is this where your curiosity comes from?
No, it's more about how exactly we can use them to understand the subtle experiences. The touch was just more of an example.
Now, do I understand that you're asking how this can be implemented, right, in our practice and our understanding? What Tanmatras represent, right? The subtle elements. Anything else that, like, specific to your process, specific to you?
Well, my meditations have been very subtle. Yeah, I suppose that's why I'm interested.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel that what has been unpacked with this theme, particularly on that day, whenever that was, when we gave the attention to the, that was yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, just yesterday. This whole underlying order of the Ashuddha Tattvas, the so-called physical or impure Tattvas. Anything with regard to where the question itself, where the inquiry proceeds, already has some kind of experiences, something like first-hand experiences. I don't want you to be afraid. If not, just that's fine too.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right, fine. Then I can see. So this is more like because some of you might have had these experiences. You see, some experiences when the subtle sense, right? Subtle sense, what all and each of the 5 Tanmatras represent, are being tapped into, right? Like, for example, when the Tanmatra of Gandha is activated, which stands for smell, right? That it is accompanied by these subtle experiences of these fragrances in meditation. Very, very refined when there is no fragrance, right? You know, you're not wearing any fragrance, any perfume. So this would be that kind of touching the respective Tanmatra, or the subtle sound, So maybe this is kind of spoken for some in advance of what could be, would be, or might be experienced. Of course, we don't want to make this into, oh, if I'm not experiencing this, like, am I lagging behind, right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to turn this into a kind of test of where we are. But when these experiences present themselves, it's certainly a great confirmation of breaking through, of breaking into that where the underlying, let's say, what underlies all physical experiences here, because the Tanmatras correspond to the physicality of this world as templates. So that, therefore, that correlation was given, right, in wave, kind of drawn as waves. Correlation between, let's say, Tanmatra of sound, Shabd, correlates to the space, Akasha. Why I have singled out subtle sense of touch is it belongs to quite a, I would say, a refined area of Tantric knowledge. So it's not something spoken just like casually. Oh, guess what? You know what? Touch is special. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. It's not like that. There are reasons for that, but since I've mentioned that, kind of obviously set myself up, and you're bringing this out, I will just mention this. Touch holds a very special place among the subtle senses, and the, how it is known, Sparsha, represents here the domain which is understood to be where the otherwise quite linear and well structured outline is getting less, sort of like how it is given on the chart. So, accordingly, Sparsha stands or situated outside. You see, if I'm going there, I'm going to mess all of your minds up. Yeah. You don't mind to be messed up? Yeah. Yes, let's do that then, right? Because we established the Tattvas, right? The physical Tattvas, they're gross, they're Ashuddha Tattvas. This is it. They're like there. This is the physicality of the world. Materia prima. This is Mother Nature. But in Tantric understanding, among the Shaivites, Sparsha, although belongs to the 5 Tanmatras, is situated in the higher realm. It is one and only Tanmatra that is subtler than the 4 others. It is, for the reasons which I will not speak to now, because it would be kind of going against the grain of why and how things are taught. But I will just give hints here, is that we did not speak about it in this particular immersion, but very often in our discourses we touch upon this, how each of the, let's say, particular psychic centers, right, that are associated with an elemental order, right? So let's say the elemental order of the Mahabhutas is very clear, right? We go from all the elemental order, if we superimpose that as it's done in every chart, in every book about this, right? So we have this ether, Vishuddhi chakra, the domain of Akash, space, right? Then we have air, the heart chakra. Akash? No, that's done. You're confusing now organs. I'm now talking about the expression of the great elements if we are to superimpose them on the subtle anatomy or on the anatomy of the subtle body. It will become clear. This is why I said, you want to be messed up? Like, let's do it.
Sorry.
No, it's not it's perfectly okay, because this is what it is. It's like we walk out of the room, we think, oh, it's all linear here, you know. So, whoops, and a little bit here. But the hint will give you some, I hope, very nice you will be able to align it within yourself, because experience simply verifies that. So again, going back to this, so ether, Vishuddhi chakra, air, heart chakra, fire, Manipura, right? The solar plexus, the city of the jewels. Then goes the Svadhisthana, the water, the expression of the water element as a Mahabhuta. And finally, the fifth gross element of the Mahabhutas is the earth, which corresponds to the Muladhara. Right? But then, what we have here is this, where the correlation between Mahabhutas, the great elements, as they're expressed here through this, let's say, subtle anatomy, they go to make that subtle anatomy. The Tanmatras here correspond to the subtle sense, right? They correspond to the way how every preceding order correlates to the way the Tanmatras themselves find the expression as that what was spoken of in terms of the microcosmos, right? No, sorry, macrocosmos. So this, for example, this is where the corresponding reality of the particular, let's say, psychic will, particular will of energy, in terms of what activates here, what. For example, at the base in Muladhara, right, which is the expression of earth element, it is activated by sense of smell. You see? So this is where the students of yoga kind of get really like, it kind of like, you have to make sense out of it, because it's really Muladhara as an organ in itself corresponds to the bowels, to the anus, and yet the sense of smell activates that area. What's the connection there? The connection is in the chart. You can see that, why that is. Right? We move up one will of energy, higher. Now it's the water element, right? The sacral plexus, corresponding to the sacral plexus. All sensual, sexual activity and primordial connection. The chemistry between that we experience amongst ourselves, we experience at the level of Svadhisthana chakra. That's how nature has designed us. And yet, it is activated through taste. See? Going back to the chart, rasa. Remember? Right? Who remembers what rasa belongs to among the Tattvas? Of taste, right? The Tanmatra of taste corresponds to the second chakra, to the Svadhisthana. Second, if we are counting it from down up. Okay? And so it goes. We come one notch higher. We go to solar plexus now. We arrive to the Manipura, which is the domain of the fire element. And what activates it? Yeah, form and light, which is basically the property of seeing. This is this connection. Each time you see something, isn't that English expression? Spark in the eyes. She has fire in her eyes. The guy has spark in his eyes. I mean, in the language even, it's there, isn't it? The luster in the eyes. Why don't they say, "Oh, his eyes full of water"? Oh, does he need a handkerchief? Like, no. There must be some kind of like people who came up with the language. This, whether they knew it or not, it makes sense. Still higher now, we come to the heart. Come to the heart chakra. We come to the domain of air. In the domain of air now, what is it? Sparsha. Activated by what? Sense of touch. So this is the answer to you, the importance of the sense of touch. This is the answer to you. This is the clue, a hint, a pointer, why it holds such importance. Particularly if you now link this with what we've discussed earlier today. So the sense of touch activates heart chakra. The sense of touch activates the heart region. So that's why it is considered to be superior to all other Tanmatras, subtle elements. And of course, from there it goes into intricacy and why that is and so forth. But this already gives you. What I haven't spoken about, but it will be good to connect maybe Tanmatras with Karmendriyas. And this is yoga. So Anahata chakra, or the heart chakra, has element of, as an expression of the air element, right? With the organs of cognition as touch. Sorry, with an organ of cognition as touch, and hands that transmit that, right? An organ of action, what? Genitals. This is what used to confuse a lot of people in early days in California. But this is from the domain of yoga. There is a corresponding reality. It's not part of our curriculum here, because to cover that much, you see, but there must be like as we did the direct correlation between Tanmatras and Mahabhutas, obviously there has to be corresponding reality between Karmendriyas, likewise between organs of knowledge and Tanmatras. So this also will answer your questions. Each and every one of you can reflect. You see what we're talking about here. And this is very tantric. Hands, heart, genitals. We're entering the domain of symbology, domain of alchemy, domain of the highest gesture of the expression of the divine creative impulses here. Because the body in Tantra is viewed as divine. And the whole Tantric practices are aimed at divinization of the body. Not gaining the divinization, bringing divinization back. by deconstructing culturally imposed concepts, which robbed the body of its original status. Even in India, it is considered to be culturally imposed, robbed. So tantric practices aim at nothing less through various different methodologies and practices. So therefore, these connections, of course, when they are understood, you see, gives us a fuller, more complex picture of how we are. And then we can actually equipped with interpreting our own spiritual and physical experiences. So this just goes to add, it's very well known how important is the sense of touch for newborn babies. It's paramount to survival. Touch. And the way the newborn experience the world is primarily through the sense of touch. They have to touch everything. Not only because we are mammals and the grip here is a survival, which is of course, but that gesture of grip has more to it. The way the child grips can tell you how that child will do in life. You can actually see already in the newborn. So that's to the supremacy of the sense of touch. And through the way, let's say, how people who are not touched, who do not experience sense of touch, when they are, the rate of recovery after illnesses or some surgeries is known to be much, much lower than among those who have this kind of, let's say, human presence, that sense of touch. So, there we go. Neuroscience today tells us about all this release of hormones in the body associated with the sense of touch. This is the importance of the connection between the hand and the skin here, deep within the structure of the Tattvas.